As my health started to get better, that's really what inspired me to keep going, being like, okay, I do need to eat gluten-free. But then on the other side, it really made me feel isolated and excluded from certain events. Going out to eat was really, really challenging. And I hated to be that person at the table. I felt like such a burden. And I also realized as I was creating these recipes and more food that I wanted everybody to eat, that I didn't want anyone to have to feel like they were a burden again. Because it's the worst feeling when you're not included, because food and the table, it's community. So Verveine Cafe and Bakery was born from that desire to want everybody to feel included at the table. And that's when it really clicked that I want to create that space for people. It took a long time to get there, but that was the birth.
Welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. As someone with food allergies and intolerances, it can be really tough to feel totally included at every table, which is one of the few spots we can connect with folks totally different from us. Today's guest has also felt that disconnect. After years as a world-class pastry chef, she was diagnosed with celiac disease and learned to blend her passion for her work with her new diagnosis and way of eating. As her tagline says, she's free of gluten, but full of life. Please welcome founder of Verveine Cafe and Bakery and Wildflower, Chef Monica Glass. Monica.
It's an honor to be here with you.
It's an honor to speak with you. I'm so glad we got connected through Liz, former podcast and friend. I mean, yes, amazing human. This is my favorite part of doing any of this is you and I can be hundreds of miles away. We're both on Eastern time, but not anywhere close to each other and not have been in the same room together, but we can still connect and I can hear and share your amazing story with everyone and just feel like we make new friends no matter where we are.
Absolutely. And that's what's so beautiful about the hospitality industry.
I just love everyone in food, bev, hospitality, no matter what their roles are, because it is that sense of we just want to connect with people. We just want to make people happy.
Yeah.
I think is that what it is?
We got into this, right?
Totally. I'd love to hear when you first fell in love with food. So what was eating like growing up in your household? Was there anything in particular that you were in love with as a kid?
Absolutely. I loved food as a kid, particularly my grandma, May, my dad's mom, had a garden. Actually, my grandma and my grandpa, they both tended to the garden, but they had a beautiful garden outside of their home in Maryland. They grew tomatoes, berries, zucchini, like just all of the fruits and vegetables. And my favorite, though, was their rhubarb. I thought that the stalks of rhubarb were so beautiful. Yes. And so really just going back in the garden, picking fruits and vegetables with them, and then seeing what they transformed it into for our dinners when we would go visit them. Really, I think, enlightened my love for food or sparked my love for food. And my dad is an avid cook, too. He always loved to experiment in the kitchen. So I would be by his side, just kind of helping him, his little chef. And
sous chef,
yeah. On the flip side, my mother could not cook.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. She didn't like to. She would say that she would burn everything. So leave it to my dad to do all the cooking. And I learned a lot from him. And just over the years, really grew to love food. I had wild berry bushes in my backyard as well. So I would go pick them and then started experimenting on my own, making jam and some cakes. When I was in high school, I entered the Goshen County Fair cake competition a couple times. Okay. I think I took home second place. Yeah, not first, but second place.
Robbed.
Yeah. And so it just spawned from there. And family meals, our dad always made sure. My mom went to work earlier than my dad, and my mom came home earlier than so they were on like two different shifts. Yes. Basically. So my dad always made sure that we walked out or we went to school with breakfast in hand. He would always make us his English McMuffins or egg McMuffins, oatmeal, just, nice hearty breakfasts. And then
nice.
He would put crock pots on for when we got home. But weekday meals were a little scattered because we were in sports and activities and everything. But we always had Sunday dinner at home. And my mom would also try to cook Sunday dinner. Sometimes her favorites were meatloaf.
Gotta love a meatloaf.
Yeah, I love a meatloaf. And she did actually make a really good meatloaf. or like what I called glass hash, which is when she wanted to clear out the freezer and put everything in the pot. And that was dinner. But we always made it so Sunday nights were our special family night.
Beautiful. How many siblings do you have?
I have an older brother, a younger sister, and a younger brother.
See, then your parents were so smart. They knew like they had to do batch cooking because you mentioned crock pot. And I'm like, it feels like only like the last 10 years people are like, they're Instapots and they're crock pots. And your family was doing it for quite some time, of saying,
Yeah.
let's just make it easy to still use fresh ingredients. Again, like you and I also grew up during, efficient as possible cooking and like, how can we get a lot of like frozen peas and carrots and just as quick as possible was our household as
I had
well.
that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that you have such a through line clearly. When you were talking about eating things outside, my mom grew up on a farm. So we still have a family farm and not a ton of animals. We had Black Angus cattle at one point when
Oh,
I was a
wow.
kid, but it's mostly corn and soybeans. But I also remember the rhubarb season and it just would randomly grow actually against one shed. What would you all make with it? Was it very classic strawberry rhubarb or were you seeing other uses?
Very classic strawberry rhubarb pie. That was
Oh,
my grandma's specialty.
and as you and I are chatting, we're not that far away. We're not that far away from rhubarb season.
I know.
It's exciting.
Got my first batch in at the cafe.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear what you do with that. We're starting to get those like random warm days and things are shooting up from the ground. I do love spring. This is maybe my favorite time of year.
I agree.
Tell us about the spark that you knew that you wanted to turn your love of food and cooking into an actual career. Why did you decide to lean towards the pastry side of things at first? You ended up at some big names like Le Bernadin and Gotham Bar and Grill and the Ritz Carlton Philly. So tell us how you started on that journey.
Absolutely. And by working at those big places, I feel incredibly lucky. And I also like to say that I created my luck because I always went after certain things. But
Yes.
so I think I knew before I knew what I wanted to do. In fifth grade in art class, we did pottery. My elementary school had a kiln and we did pottery class for art. And I made a roly-poly baker holding a wedding cake. And I
Oh my
still
God.
have, yeah, in fifth grade.
Oh my gosh. We're going to need like the picture of this to
We'll
include
definitely send it on,
somehow.
yeah. And so I never thought about cooking as a career. It was just something I liked to do. And I went to school. I also was in love with film making.
Oh
And so I went to school to Penn State for film and video.
my
I just
gosh.
it was going to be too competitive and I didn't think I was going to be successful. And I loved writing. So I switched to PR so I could also graduate early, be on time. I didn't want to switch to anything that would extend my education. As much as I loved Penn State, I was ready to get out into the real world.
Yeah.
Don't
You were saying like, let's do a little college, but let's actually get out there and do stuff. Like, let's go.
exactly. So PR took me to New York City, the culinary mecca. And I was just enamored by all the restaurants. The PR firm I was working at, I was in children's entertainment, but they had a huge food section where they did restaurants, wine, wineries, spirits, all chefs. They represented chefs. And I just kept gravitating towards that side and volunteering for events and just wanted to get immersed in that over the children's entertainment. And then I befriended one of the chefs whose cookbook we were working on, Maureen Petrosky, and she advised me to just, because I wanted to learn how to cook better. Again, I wasn't thinking of it as a career, but I couldn't afford culinary school or taking classes. But I had free time after work. So I was like, what can I do? And she advised me to make a list of my top 10 chefs who I'd want to learn from and just go down the list, knock on the doors, and ask if I could work for free. So
Goodness.
I did that. Gotham Bar and Grill was at the top of my list, particularly Deborah Racicot, the pastry chef at the time there. And in making this list, I had both savory and pastry chefs on there because I wanted to learn everything. I love to cook in general. But at the end of the day, I put Gotham or Deborah at the top because I loved her style. She was artistic, it was beautiful, it was very pleasing to the eyes, but then also her food, I had never tasted it, but I assumed tasted really good. And I decided at the end of the day that I wanted to lean the pastry route because of that, the artistry, and also it was more scientific. and I like to know why things work the way they do. And I felt like pastry offered that to me. Uh,
Yes. Baking is just so great for people who love things to be exact.
yes,
And
definitely.
that's why I like it.
Yeah, me too. And I just knocked on her door and asked to speak with her. And she asked why I wanted to work in pastry. And I said, I like to work with my hands and I like to make people happy. And she invited me to come that Saturday. And so I started moonlighting there a couple days a week after work and on the weekends until she offered me a job. I turned it down because I wasn't ready to go from making no money to really no money. So I think I turned her down twice. And then the third time she offered me the job, I was like, I guess I should take it. I should really take it and
She wasn't
accept.
quitting on you. She was like, come on, Monica, I see this.
Yep, exactly. She knew.
Oh, that's
Uh,
amazing. What
yeah.
were you learning the most under her tutelage? What do you feel like you saw grow in leaps and bounds with your own pastry chefing?
So I learned a lot from her. Technique, but I would say the most important thing I think I learned from her was resilience and repetition, because repetition creates like, I don't want to say perfection. That's the first word in my head, but it's not. Repetition creates like consistency
Yes. Yes,
and
which is
making
so
things simple.
important with those tiny details.
Exactly. I remember one of the first tasks that I was allowed to do was just punching out cookie dough because we did mignardises, so like really small bites of desserts after your meal is over. And one of my favorite ones was the peanut butter cookies, the oatmeal cookies that she did, but they were like this big, the size
It's
of
still
like
little.
a nickel.
Yes. And like just again has to be perfect and precise.
Exactly. And I just rolled out the dough and just kept punching out rows of cookies.
Love that. And also, it just takes your mind away. It allows you to like think about other things and ways to get more creative once you're in the middle of a task like that. I feel is it's that's why I love getting off the screen sometime and being like, let me do something with my hands, let me run around someplace because suddenly you can get hit with something of let me try something new next.
Therapeutic, isn't it?
Totally. What did you learn at Le Bernadin the most under Eric?
So much. Eric is an amazing mentor. So, something that he really taught me was that every day that he was in the restaurant, he would walk in and say hi to everybody and pat everybody on the back or shake their hand or just, he knew everybody's name. Even on my first day, he knew my name. And I had not met him when I had staged. And so that was really impressive to me and something that I've always held in the back of my head. And when I go into the cafe, I say hi to every single person because they all matter. They're all there to be with me and the team and grow. And yeah,
Built the dream together.
yep,
Absolutely.
exactly. And then the pastry chef there at the time was Michael Lascanis, and I learned so much from him. And he was very put your head down and work and like very intimidating at times, but also such a softie. And I remember I also like to ask a lot of questions because I wanted to learn and I was very curious. I'm always very curious. And one time he was doing work and I was asking questions and he turned to me and he was like, "You're not normal." And I'm like, "Oh, why, thank you."
This is I think that's a compliment.
It's a huge compliment. I took it as to this day, it's still probably my best compliment I've ever received.
Who wants to be normal? Who wants to, again, he was probably not used to folks asking a lot of questions because they just wanted to do what he wanted. Whereas you're wondering the why. Why are we doing things this way? And how did you come up with that? And, how you can then shape your thinking and what your style was going to end up being.
Exactly. And I wanted to know what was going on in his brain.
You're like, excuse me, Michael.
That was me.
He's like, Mom.
Yep.
Now, this is an interesting time. I mean, you've fallen in love with pastry and should say traditional pastry, what we know of, and not what's going to be in the future as we all continue to find innovations here. So, close to about 17 years ago, 20 years ago, you had this later in life moment where you were diagnosed with celiac disease. I want to hear about that moment, where it lined up with your work, and also just like how deeply it affected you and your identity. It's really scary when you realize my way of eating and how I approach life needs to change drastically and immediately. You get just thrown for a loop completely.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how I felt. I felt like my world was just like ripped apart.
Yeah.
As a child, I was also always sick, but doctors just said it was IBS. I was always severely anemic, passing out, digestive issues. But it was really not until I got to college, and also my mom got sick with ovarian cancer at the same time. And now they're thinking that the stress from my mother's illness triggered the gene, because you always have the gene, but triggered the gene. And that's when I got actually really sick. I really couldn't stomach anything. Everything was burning when I was eating. And I went to the nurse's office at Penn State, and she told me just to drink more milkshakes. I needed to put more weight on. And I was like, well, milkshakes make my throat feel okay. So I guess I'll do that. But it was not what I needed to hear. I needed someone to take me seriously. And like, I'm telling you that I burn whenever I eat. And I just got dismissed by doctors left and right, just saying that I was anorexic because I wasn't eating, or just IBS. Mhm.
You needed a plan. You needed something personalized.
I did, yeah. So I just figured this is how I have to live. And I just continued doing my life this way. But it wasn't until I was in Union Square at the farmer's market, I passed out, because it was typical of me to pass out because my anemia. And some people there took me to the closest urgent care. And they said that I had the lowest iron they had ever seen. I immediately got like an iron transfusion. And then that was definitely this, it was around this time of year, because I then had to go home. My mother passed April 12th of 2008. And so I remember I went home for like a week, and everybody thought that because I passed out that I like left La Bernadin and didn't say bye to them, but it was actually because my mother passed. And from there, I did end up moving to Philadelphia because Eric Repair had asked me to open up 10 Arts by Eric Repair at the Ritz Carlton with my good friend Jen Carroll. So I was still part of the Bernadin family, just in another location. And from there, I started going to see new doctors. I had better health, and well, actually, I had health insurance. I was on my parents' health insurance before, probably. But anyway, I had health insurance from the Ritz Carlton and started seeing more doctors. And I have photos of myself like looking very ghastly, very green, pale, like yellowy green colored. And I started getting weekly iron treatments, a couple of blood transfusions as well. And then finally, they figured out what it was. I was also diagnosed with gastritis, esophagitis, and gastroparesis at the same time.
My goodness. And was that all inflamed from the celiac disease? Because you were dealing with this for years. Your whole body was like, I'm just inflamed all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was breathing in the flour, I was eating things that my body was rejecting.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you went through such a transition in life and a real new chapter that happened at the same time. I'm so sorry about your mother's passing. And I'm sure at the same time you saw this as I've got to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see the closest people in your life dealing with health issues themselves, you're looking at yourself going, what can I do to be better? And I'm sure she's so proud of everything you've done and the progress that you made immediately after, too.
Thank you. Yeah, I know she's always watching. She's always
Yes,
there.
she's part of this for sure. And so then once you had this diagnosis, how did you go to say Eric and Jen and the folks you were working with and say, I need to make some adjustments here?
Yeah. Well, they saw the physical improvements in me. Like my coloring changed, my energy came back, and they were very, very, very supportive. I really wasn't given any guidance other than you have to eat gluten-free. I did see a nutritionist, but she also wasn't very helpful at the time because they didn't really know much, and everything tasted like cardboard and
Right.
just disgusting. So I really started to try to research and play with different ingredients. There was a natural food store in Philly. It's still there. It's Essen Market. I used to love to go to there and just scour the shelves of like, what's this flour? What's this? And just try to piece things together and see how I could best mimic glutinous flour, like regular all-purpose flour, protein content, fat, starch, and just play around with the different blends and then slowly introduce them. When I was happy with something, I would introduce it and use it in a recipe at 10 Arts and just see how people reacted to it. If they liked the gluten-free things I was making, but without telling them it was gluten-free. And that was always my goal, was I wanted to make food that everybody could eat and no one would know it was gluten-free.
Yes. And what was the reaction? How were folks saying, "Oh my gosh, that was gluten-free?"
Basically, yeah. I mean, typically, I think loved everything.
Incredible.
I know there were a lot of failures, but I didn't put those on the menu.
You got to do, like you said, a lot of scientific testing here. And just like with any type of business, it's a lot of trial and error to figure out what's actually going to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What then inspired you to strike out on your own? So you were invigorated with this new personal mission of I want everyone to feel like they can come to the table and eat, and also looking at food really as not just as a purpose of, hey, this is delicious, but very much nourishing inside and out and seeing it as medicine too.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. Well, as my health started to get better and I felt better, that's really what inspired me to keep going, being like, okay, I do need to eat gluten-free. I'm actually gaining weight. My coloring's back. I have energy. I can run again. But
Yes.
then on the other side, it really made me feel isolated and excluded from certain events. Going out to eat was really, really challenging. And I hated to be that person at the table. I felt like such a burden. And I also realized as I was creating these recipes and more food that I wanted everybody to eat, that I didn't want anyone to have to feel like they were a burden again. Because it's the worst feeling when you're not included, because food and the table, it's community. Like I want everybody to belong. And so that's really what inspired the idea of a space. So Verveine Cafe and Bakery was born from that desire to want everybody to feel included at the table. And that's when it really clicked in my head that I want to create that space for people. It took a long time to get there, but that was the birth. Also, I was always an entrepreneur at heart. Growing up, I had a babysitters club where I like hired out my friends as babysitters. And then I had a cleaning business with another one of my friends, and we cleaned my dad's office. He was an optometrist, and other friends' parents' offices. So I always had that spark in me.
It's always like when you're really young. People are like, "What was your first job?" I'm like, "I was 10 years old and I went to my next door neighbors and said, 'Can I walk your schnauzer for $10 a week?'"
I love that. Yeah. I
Because
was
it was just like, I want to
library.
do something. I want to feel almost like I'm earning something, and also that I'm putting myself out there
Yeah,
and just work. Like I just was excited to work.
I love that. Yeah, me too. I love to work.
You know, I love that you did the babysitters club. That is amazing. Of like,
Right by the books, of course.
right, right. So, when was the actual launch of this? Tell us what inspires the menu, the concept, and also how you met your co-founder, Chef Ken Oringer. It's always interesting to see like how people met and then what real strengths that you each bring to the table.
Absolutely. So I ended up being connected with Ken in 2012 when I had left 10 Arts, and I did a tasting. I'd always admired Ken. I saw him on Food Network and just thought a lot of great pastry chefs came out of Clio, his restaurant at the time. Amazing pastry chefs who I'd admired, and I always admired Ken's style as well. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have the opportunity to cook for him right now and potentially work for him. And so that's how we got connected. And I got offered the position as pastry chef of Clio. And I immediately jumped and I was like, I'm going, I'm going.
Yeah,
And I
you're
was,
like, let's go.
let's go. Yeah. I was there for 3 years. And Ken, he always believed in me, supported me, and also challenged me, and still challenges me in the best ways. I remember he used to just bring me ingredients that I had never heard of and be like, Monty, taste this and make something, put it on the menu today. He encourages me to think outside of the box. And so I left Clio in 2015 because I was missing home. I knew that Clio was closing and I had an opportunity to go back home to Philadelphia. And so ever since I left there, we had been talking about doing something together. Originally, Ken wanted a bakery, and I was like, I want more of a restaurant, cafe, and it has to all be gluten-free.
Yes, very
So,
important.
yeah. And then his daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease, I'm going to say about 7 or 8 years ago now. And so when that happened, he was like, all right, Monty, we can do all gluten-free. I was like, yes, let's do this. And so we
Yes.
started truly planning it. And it was a couple years in the making of plans. And then we opened May 6th of 2024. So I can't believe it's almost 2 years now.
My
It's crazy.
goodness. I didn't realize like how new it was in so many ways, even though the concept had been brewing for some time. And I appreciate that for Ken, he then had his own personal mission of, I want my daughter to also have a place that she can go and feel like completely safe, because that's a huge part of it too, right? I'm so used to now saying, right before I order anything, putting notes on takeout, just, hi, I have a severe tree nut and peanut allergy.
Mm.
Here's what's okay. Here's what's not okay. And just talking through it with people. But like, it's taken decades to feel discomfortable with that and saying, this is me. Like, this is what I require to not go into anaphylactic shock. Would you like to avoid that as well? And
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's the safety part of it too. And so tell us about the menu a little bit more and what we'd feel when we come into Verveine.
Yeah. So first, I do want to preface that we specifically or purposely did not advertise that it was going to be gluten-free. So it definitely confused people because they're like, well, Monica's gluten-free.
What's
Is it
this?
going
Yeah.
to? And I wouldn't tell anybody. But yes, we are entirely gluten-free, dedicated, safe space. But we didn't want to advertise because of the stigma of gluten-free being gross.
Oh yeah, like it's going to somehow taste bad. But there's been such amazing innovation, and we'll talk about your own
Mhm.
innovation too, of why it tastes so good now.
Yeah. And I just wanted people to try the food before making judgment. So,
100%.
but what inspires the menu is that I want it to be food that everybody can enjoy together. It also is inspired through Ken and my experiences, both in traveling and learning different cuisines as well. So it is inspired by a lot of different cuisines. And that is what is American, isn't it? Like it's
100%.
cultural melting pot.
Yes. Yes. Are there any particular cultures or dishes that you like to make or that you're always reaching for?
Mm. I mean, I am a Francophile and I studied abroad in Marseille and I just love French food and classic technique. I was trained in Gotham Bar and Grill and Le Bernadin through classic French technique. So that is what I come back to. But I love everything. I love experimenting and trying new things. Some Vietnamese food because I have two really good friends who actually three really good friends, and they've been teaching me how to cook over the years as well. So yeah.
A good pho always does it for me. I
Okay.
had the best banh mi in Chicago a couple weekends ago, actually, too. Just
Ooh,
like really quick, hole in the wall kind of place. It was near a friend's house as I was driving in. And yeah, hadn't had one so good in a long time.
amazing.
Yes. So I also want to point out you are such a safe space that when I go to your menu on your website, you actually have this really cool allergen friendly software that's on top of the menu called Picnic. Why did you decide that not just gluten free, but folks can actually then dial in on their specific allergens to see what they can eat ahead of time? Not only do I just love reading menus to be like, what am I getting into here from a safety standpoint, but also I'm always curious before I go out to eat, like, what do I think I'm going to like the most? So, why did you all decide on that to make sure that everyone could see their allergens?
Because that is really important. I want to be a safe space for everybody. Of course, there could be some cross contamination because we do use nuts, we do use dairy, soy, but we are as careful as possible. And it's important that people know what's in their food, but I didn't necessarily want to put it on our website directly. Just some can feel too overwhelming or too cluttered, but that way this gives guests an option to go actually look and see what is in their food and what they're making educated choices about.
And does that work in person at all as well in terms of having an allergen guide, or is it more just the education of the staff and how they speak about the dishes?
Education of the staff, yes. And we have an allergen guide at the front POS register so they can answer questions as they
Love
come.
that. Love that. Okay, so Picnic is one I'm going to keep looking into. I also had they're exclusively in the UK. It's called the Served app. Two really smart young women who were engineers and again deal with food allergies built this out. So it's like on the Dishoom's menus now. It's really cool. So I just can't wait to see this software and how it interacts, especially like in person, continue to grow because it's just so helpful. It makes everyone have just a sigh of relief because when you're also the server, you're like, okay, this is really important. Let me go talk to the chef. Let me go double check everything before I even confirm anything for you.
Definitely.
Definitely. Yes. So I'm so excited by everything you're building here.
Yep.
Congratulations. You are on the semifinalist list for Outstanding Pastry Chef or Baker for the James Beard Awards this year. How has this felt to you? What has this recognition meant given like your journey and how you're really pushing gluten-free pastry forward more than anything? And have you seen any little good upticks, any good things that have affected the business since the nomination?
Well, thank you so much. It was definitely a shock, and I still feel a little shocked. And I was on vacation on my first day of vacation in Costa Rica with my boyfriend when that morning I had missed calls from, first off, I was trying to be phone free except for like taking photos that week. Didn't happen. I
You're
mean,
like, I'm in the rainforest.
I was in the rainforest. Yeah, I told everybody like I'm not gonna have service. So I had a couple missed phone calls from some friends, and they're like, "Pick up the phone." I'm like,
Like, what's wrong?
"Me." Actually, I was really worried because I adopted two dogs, and one of my best friends was watching them, and I was like, "Oh my God, did something happen with the dogs?" And he's like, "No, you're on the James Beard list." And I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's such an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. And for like folks who want to know more behind the scenes, do you get any inkling ahead of time? Is there someone kind of sniffing about or reaching out to you? It's just truly
No inkling.
chosen by
It was
peers.
truly, yeah, chosen by peers. I had no idea. That's why I'm in complete shock, especially as a gluten-free chef. I never expected to be on this list.
I think the more you talk about it, it's going to just keep raising awareness. And that's what's so important. So I know you're very humble and just kind of like, oh no, how'd this happen? But like, keep tooting the horn, keep letting people know because this is going to be part of the mission of this can be recognized at this level. And it's incredible and it's delicious and it's safe for people who have celiac or gluten intolerances.
Yeah, and I like to say at the end of the day, I make food. It's just food that everybody can eat. It's yeah.
And that's what's most important. So let's also talk about Wildflower, which is such a great name for your own gluten-free flour. What inspired you to get in the CPG game? When did that all start? And what have been the highlights and challenges of putting out your own product in this space?
Yeah. So the name actually, thank you for saying it's a great name because it
So
does.
cute.
It was born from a trip that I took to Longwood Gardens outside of Philadelphia, where I'm from, with a couple friends, and I was frolicking in the wildflowers. And my
This
one,
seems like you.
definitely me. And my one friend was like, "Wildflower, you should do," because I had been packaging my flour blend at home and selling it like to friends and just small scale. And she's like, "That's what you should call it, Wildflower." And then I went through different iterations and I was like, well, I don't want to call it just Wildflower. So that's where the WLDFLR comes from.
It's cool. Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted it to stand out. And I started with just the pastry flour mix because that became my go-to blend. I couldn't find anything at the grocery stores or on the market that I actually liked, and that's what led me to create that. And then also the banana bread mix because that was the most requested item, like recipe that my friends wanted to make at home. And I was like, well, why don't I package this in a way that you don't have to buy all these flours or sugars? Because I use coconut sugar in it and organic cane sugar and then coconut flour and all sorts of different things. So I was like, I'll package it so you can just make it with the wet ingredients. And that's how that came about. And it's still on a small scale, trying to find a manufacturer to produce the flours for me. I was connected through Rebecca, who owns Fox and Sons, with Raymond Hadley Corporation, and they now produce all the flour and mixes for me. It's pretty cool. And then I got bags designed by an amazing designer, Jess Glebe in Philly. She really brought my vision to life. And from there, I want to do more mixes. I'm working on my pizza focaccia one, and then maybe some chocolate cake, maybe, blueberry muffins, something like that.
So amazing. I'm excited about the pizza focaccia one because, again, you're not just approaching this. I think you can tell me if I'm correct. Like, this is not just all purpose gluten-free flour. And that's what's really differentiating you here is that this is specifically for pastry. Then it's going to be specifically for pizza and focaccia, which we have an uni and like we really need to figure out how to be better at it because like the pizza making process is not easy.
No, it's not. And it took a lot to get there, but I want an uni actually for home.
I recommend it. And then like you probably will be much better at it than us immediately. It is a learning process. Like,
Yeah, definitely is. I'm working with the dough.
yeah. And even just like with the wind
Oh,
affecting the flame was such a huge thing for us. Like things were catching on fire. We were like, when is a good time to do uni? Was such a big thing for us.
yeah, I can imagine that.
So you're continuing to grow this here. I'm curious how you're reaching new audience members and customers. Like, how do you like to position yourself for Verveine and Wildflower? I always like to ask what your storytelling secret ingredients are.
Mm. I don't really have a secret ingredient on that. I'm trying to work on social media a little more better,
It's
but
tough. It's tough to do it all.
yeah, it is. But I actually have my friend who watched my dogs is also now going to help me grow the Wildflower brand. And so I do sell the mixes at the cafe. The flour that we use at the cafe. So I sell retail bags as well. And that has gotten some recognition out. I have a QR code there where people can scan and get more information and be directed to my website where they can also purchase it. And then Greg and I are working on getting it into some local markets first. I mean, it's not there yet, but this is the goal is to get into some markets and then maybe something bigger like Whole Foods or Wegmans.
Absolutely. We're going to see you at Expo West like next year or in a year or two.
I would,
And it just takes time because you have so many babies. It's hard to balance all the business babies.
it's really hard.
I do appreciate that you've got the flour there and the mix because I was going to ask, like, oh, do you ever use it in the cafe then and be like, hey, you can make this at home? It's such a smart strategy to be like, you've already tasted it, you know what you can do with it. Now take it home and use it yourself.
And speaking of the flour, I am crazy and I get the shipments because I'm small. I don't have a location, like I don't have a warehouse yet. I
Yeah.
think it's coming to that point because the last shipment I got 8 pallets, which was I think 14,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds of 50-pound bags of the flour that then it gets dropped off in my driveway and I have to carry it down to my basement
I
bag
mean,
by
this
bag.
is a workout, but you got to be careful. When I worked with, you should be on Here Market. You should be. So when they're a Chicago-based platform that works with folks nationwide that are shelf stable, and so it's essentially your spot to find shelf stable, shelf creator driven items across the board.
That's really
So I can connect you. And when I was in the office, though, we were in the Merchandise Mart of Chicago at the time. If you've been to the city, it used to have its own zip code. It's such a big building.
oh my God.
And so there were times when, even though I was doing marketing, I was in the like actual depths of this giant building, just so like wheeling around pallets of
Yep.
boxes because I was like, okay, we got a big event coming up. I got to go, help this creator get it into the office. And we'd take turns. And it's so funny when you think about like all the physical work you do sometimes for
Mhm.
something that you're like, this is just a small like box
I
for someone
totally
else.
agree. Yes. Definitely
Very
a work.
funny money. It's always the funny memories. But I think you're at that point where you're like, huh, I need like a lift basically
I
from your
do.
house.
Yeah. I mean, this time, because it was so much flour, I hired 2 people off of TaskRabbit to help me. And we had to unload it in the snow too.
Oh no.
Yeah, not ideal
Good
conditions.
for us to laugh at back at, but in the
Yeah.
moment you're like, this is exhausting.
Exhausting. It was fun, but yes.
I have a feeling you'll find a really great co-packing and manufacturing space with other CPG brands where, again, you can connect with each other, even start to work together. I love that all of those communities are continuing to build.
Yeah, it is a great connection.
Yeah. So, how would you describe the Wildflower brand? Is it fun and kind of hippie and meant to feel free?
Yes, absolutely. Meant to feel free. And that is why my tagline is free of gluten, full of life,
Oh,
because,
so
it's
great.
be a way of life. It's not just a thing.
Yeah.
It's more the freedom that you can eat whatever you want with this, joy, nourishment, and just enjoying life.
Yes. And I feel like you're also someone that I feel like just even talking to you, you understand your core person very well. And I'm sure that it helps you just come back to yourself and
Yeah,
feel really safe and strong there.
it does. And I've always been taught that you are best positioned to serve the person you once were.
Yes.
So you're right. It's my core.
You understand your customer more than anyone.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, in a time when like food trends are always like vacillating, but like the pendulum's just like swinging very hard towards like what macros are in all of our ingredients, especially packaged foods, and everything's proteinized and everything's got added fiber to it now. Do you ever feel pressure to switch your packaging or your marketing in a certain way or even the ingredients?
No,
No,
I
just sticking with
don't,
it.
because I know what I want this to be. And I also feel that you can't live such a rigid life. Like you need joy, and food is joy. So
Yes.
why deny yourself that pleasure? And that's why, like, dietary needs, absolutely, absolutely will accommodate them, but also give yourself that pleasure of having sugar or having something delicious.
Yes. Not everything having to be for the purpose of function.
Correct. Yes.
The function of joy.
The function of
It's
joy.
totally. So, speaking of your own joy, you're wearing a lot of hats, you're tackling a lot of elements of your business. What do you like to do to fill your cup and be able to keep going at things? Is there something that you like to do for fun outside of work?
Yes, I mean, there's so many things that I would do if I had more time. But since opening, I have definitely been working a lot, business
Yes.
owner, doing everything. And I am realizing that it is affecting my health,
Mm,
both physical and mental health. So I'm really trying to lean on my team more and take more time for myself now. Like I actually just starting today, put an out of office email away message for Mondays. Every Monday is my day now. I mean,
this
obviously, if
is,
there's an emergency, fine. But like, I have been doing too much admin, all the stuff that I can't get done at the cafe because I'm being pulled in so many different directions that I do it on Mondays, which is supposed to be my day. And it had been starting to affect me mentally and physically. So that is one way I'm taking care of myself.
this is
Um,
awesome. Oh,
yeah.
I'm so proud of you. Like, we
Well,
all need to do better at putting the blocks on our calendar or in just like the ways that when people can communicate with us. Like, I'm definitely guilty of responding really quickly or feeling like I have to. So no one thinks that like I'm away or that it's not happening. Or in the case of the podcast, like, oh, natural holidays are okay to take off. But, I'm starting to think of a big trip and like, going to be like, hey, I should probably take a week or two off from
you should.
putting out an episode and actually enjoy where we're at when we decide.
Yes, because it's also that chatter of I should do this that brings stress. And with stress, I had my autoimmune flare-ups,
Yeah.
if I'm not sleeping enough, if I'm not feeding myself enough, if I'm on my feet all day long. So, but also I need better movement, different types of movement. If I'm
Yes.
not doing that, then it adds more stress and makes me sicker. So,
The bad cycle.
it's a bad cycle, and I'm trying to break out of that now and really work on my health and my wellness and well-being and spend more time with my little pups that I just adopted.
What are their names?
Quill and Stewie.
Interesting. What's Quill from?
So I didn't name them, they were already named. I was told that they were both 8 years old. Stewie might be 10 years old.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I adopted two little old men. They're
I
little
love
children,
that.
2 to 3 pounds. They're tiny, sleeping next to me.
Stewie the Chihuahua.
Actually, both of their names are very fitting, so I didn't want to change them. The rescue named them. Quill is nervous with everything, but he's so comfortable with me now, and it's so cute to watch him come into his own person. He gets zoomies and he has so much energy and likes to play. And then Stewie is more of the dominant treataholic, I call him. He wants treats all the time.
Yeah. I love it. So our girls are two kitty cats. We didn't change their names either. We just, one is Maud
Ma, that's a great name.
Small, potentially part dwarf cat, a little intense, just like fits her perfectly. The other is a big orange and white tabby, Charlotte, but we call her Charlie, and she's such a Charlie. She just lumbers about, and they're perfect sisters. They're good compliments to each other.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So you're a good mommy. You're a good dog mommy.
Thank you.
So you have so much to be proud of along your journey, but I always like to ask, what do you think you're most proud of? And what do you think is coming next? How do you imagine yourself growing?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think I am most proud of my perseverance because I could have given up many times, but I had a vision and I had a dream and I wanted to keep going for it. You know, being sick and realizing that I couldn't eat the very thing that I was working with all the time. Like I wanted to give up, but I didn't give up. I just changed. I challenged myself to change. And opening this cafe has been the hardest thing. And there are some days where I just want to quit, but I don't want to. It's my baby. And I persevere. And also being able to take care of myself now, I want to be that good role model and that good example for my team and for other people as well. Because I know when we were brought up in the industry, exhaustion and burnout were a badge of honor. And I still have that ingrained in me, but that's not how I want to run this. It's not why I built it. It's not what I want to show people. And so I'm proud of myself for recognizing that as well and making a change forward.
I'm really glad you're doing that too. And that is such a startup founder thing too, is like, how many hours can you work? Some of the folks really love the hustle culture and saying like, I slept at the office. And I was never that person. And so I'd feel kind of out of place of like, I love sleep. Like I can't function without my sleep and I can't function
Uh,
without taking some level of break. Because then I also just am not myself.
no,
No
and
one wants to be around that person.
I don't want to be angry.
Yeah. You want
The
to be
left
grouchy. Yeah.
now, I'm angry in the car, and I'm like,
Like, no, 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 we don't need this. And there's so much already in the world that inspires rage that I'm like, no, I got to do what I can in my own control to stay level and stay balanced as much as possible so that things can happen that bring joy and bring happiness.
yes, I support that.
Thank you. I want to ask, so you're going to work on some different flowers here. Is there anything else that you want to reveal that's part of the journey coming up?
Oh, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, but coming
Not,
soon.
but I've been working on things behind the scenes.
Love it. We'll stay tuned.
Yes.
So I always like to ask as well, before we get to the world's best and hardest question, as I say, is what's one piece of advice that you'd like to give other entrepreneurs, whether they're looking to build something in food and bev or any other space?
Yeah. So I think there are actually a couple. The first one I'm going to say is you want to build the thing that really solves your problem. So going
Yes.
back to saying that I am best positioned to serve the person who I once was. So use that as your framework and guidance to coming up with your business. The strongest ideas come from your lived experience, not trends. And then the other thing is standards are your superpower because I hold my team and myself to such high standards of excellence, and we can't let that slip. People often underestimate how much consistency matters. And that's going back to like my Gotham Bar and Grill days where I talked about the consistency or like just the repetition creates consistency. And consistency is what people want.
Yes. Yes, it's a trust thing too.
It's a good thing. Absolutely. Mhm.
Like I trust I'm going to be safe and that it's going to be wonderful every time I eat it.
Yes.
That is a really good one, I will say, especially like in a world where it just kind of feels like everyone's like meh.
Yeah. They
And
want the
it's
next.
easy to feel that way right now. It's just kind of like, nah, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah, but it's good enough.
Right. And we don't want that. We want great.
We want great.
So, Monica, here we are. As a reminder to folks, this is called the perfect bite because it's a perfect bite of our friends across the food and value chain and everything they bring to us. But it's also because we each have our own perfect bites. So, something you've eaten, a memory, your recipes, a vacation you took, just a bite that you had that you'll never forget and it always makes you smile. So, Monica, what is your perfect bite?
it would be Maryland crabs with Old Bay and a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. So we grew up going to Ocean City, Maryland. My parents are from Maryland, and we would have crabs every summer, like multiple times a summer. My mother was the fastest crab picker there was. And then my dad lives in Ocean City, Maryland at what was once our vacation home. He has now lived there for 8 years, maybe.
Beautiful.
So just going there, and it's just always brings me just back to reality and like relaxation and just the act of picking crabs and drinking with my dad on the back deck.
Yes. And that special moment with your mom being there too.
Yes,
She's
exactly.
part of that. Oh, and a girl after my heart, a crisp glass of Sauvy B. That's where it's at on a warm day.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I can't wait till we're back there. Monica, this has been wonderful. I'm always like, I'm a sad. We always have to end the episode at some point.
I'll speak with you forever.
I know. I'm so glad we've connected. I can't wait to meet in person one day. I can't wait to come try your food. I love just exploring all the places that come here on the podcast. But I'd love other folks to know, where can they find you? So can you list social accounts, websites, the town that Verveine is in, and any other things that we should know about?
Absolutely, yes. So you can first reach me at my website, chefmonicaglass.com. And actually, something I am almost complete. Probably by the time this comes out, I'll have a new lead magnet on my website, Complete Guide to Simple Gluten-Free Living. You can download that and get on my email list. I'm working on being more consistent with emails. And then my Instagram is at Chef Moni. For the cafe, it is at Verveine Cafe, and the website is www.verveinecafe.com. And Wildflower is at wildflower_gluten-free on Instagram.
And we'll put all those spellings and where to find it in our show notes here. So it's easy for folks to click and get over there.
Awesome.
Monica, thank you again so much for joining me. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. You were listening to Chef Monica Glass's Perfect Bite.
Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.